In this video, you will learn about Quarto. Now, what is Quarto? Quarto is an open source scientific and technical publishing system that allows you to create dynamic documents, presentation, websites, and reports. It supports multiple programming languages such as R, Python, and Julia, making it a versatile tool for data analysts, scientists, and educators. By the end of this video, you have a solid understanding of Quarto and how to create reproducible and professional documents. We will explore Quarto core concepts and project structures. You also learn how to embed and execute codes in R or Python and customize output formats such as HTML, PDF, and slides with theme and with using templates. You also discover advanced features like cross-references and citation and see how to organize your file for seamless collaboration. I will guide you through a hands-on workflow that includes initializing a Quarto project, configuring YAML options, writing and styling code chunks in R or Python, applying themes, and publishing your work as a website or a report. With these skills, you'll be ready to produce, share, and maintain high quality and reproducible Quarto output with great confidence. Quarto is a multi-language next generation version of R Markdown from Pursuit and includes dozens of new features and capabilities such as this dynamic document. With Quarto, you can generate dynamic output using Python, R, or Julia to create reproducible documents that can be generated when underlying assumption or data changes. You can also use your favorite tools including VS Code, RStudio, JupyterLab, or any text editor. With Quarto, you can publish high quality articles, reports, presentation, website, or books in HTML, PDF, MS Word, or EPUB. With Quarto, you can engage readers by adding interactive data exploration to your documents using Jupyter widgets, HTML widgets for R, Observable JS, and Shiny. Quarto has excellent support for latex equation and citation. It adds extension for cross-references, figure panels, callouts, advanced page layout, and even more. You can publish collection of documents as a blog or full website. You can also create books and manuscripts in both print format, for example in PDF or MS Word, and even in online format using HTML and EPUB. Quarto is the next generation publishing system built on the foundation of R Markdown. You can author documents with Markdown or even incorporate code chunks to embed data analysis and visualization. After that, you can even export your output to multiple formats such as HTML, PDF, MS Word, PowerPoint, or even create interactive websites. Now let's see how to install and set up Quarto. Quarto 1.6 is now bundled directly with the new version of RStudio. If you have this version installed, then there is no need to install Quarto separately. However, if you are using different IDEs such as VS Code or you don't have the new version of RStudio installed, then you will install Quarto manually. And to do that, you will go to this website, quarto.org. Then you download the software and install it based on your operating system. After the installation, open RStudio or your terminal and type Quarto check. If installed successfully, then you will see a confirmation message. To start working with Quarto, you need to have a basic understanding of Markdown, which we have covered in the previous video. Quarto has three main components: the Markdown, the code chunks, and the output formats. You can use Quarto IDE of your choice. For example, the RStudio is mostly preferred by the R users, and you can also use VS Code, and this is popular for the Python or the Julia users. And in fact, you can also use Quarto in Jupyter Notebook for interactive Python workflows. RStudio provides a comprehensive integrated development environment for Quarto, offering seamless integration and powerful features for document creation and management. And to create your first Quarto in RStudio, the first thing to do is to launch your RStudio, then navigate to File, New File, and select Quarto Documents. Then a box like this will show up, which involves the metadata such as the title, the author, the kind of document you want to create. Is it in HTML, PDF, MS Word, and you can also select the engine. If you are using the R Studio, then you select NetR, and for Python user you select Jupyter. Then after all the metadata has been set up, then you click create. And if you don't want any metadata, you can easily create an empty document by coming to this side and click create empty. That will create an empty Quarto document. But if you follow these first three steps, then you will create a Quarto document that has the metadata set up. RStudio generates a template document containing the YAML header, the basic markdown, and the code chunk. The YAML header at the top of Quarto document defines metadata and configuration of your document, and it includes the following fields: the title, the author, the date, and the format. And in fact, you can also add many fields to it. Example of YAML header for an HTML document is this. As you can see, it includes the title fields, the author, the date, and the format. In this case, the format is HTML, and it also has some other metadata such as table of content. Here I said true because I want the document to include the table of content. I'm also using the theme, which is Cosmo. Code chunks allow you to embed executable code in languages like Python or R. They are defined by triple backticks followed by the language name and optional chunk options. For example, you can control output display using those chunk options. I will show you when we get to the lab session various chunk options. For example, here is R code chunks, and here I'm trying to display a summary of car dataset. As you can see, this is the chunk option. Here I said echo is equal to false. This will hide the code and show only the output, and here is the output. And for the Python code chunk, I have something like this. Here I import the numpy, and then I print the average of the following list, and that gives me this output. When you are using RStudio as your IDE for Quarto, then you have two options for your editor mode. In this case, you have visual editor mode and the source editor mode. In the visual editor mode, you can work like the way you do work in MS Word by using click options. But in the source editor mode, you have to use the raw markdown for formatting your text. But with visual editor mode, you just be using the option menu on that visual editor mode. I will show you when we get to the lab session how to use the two. You can easily toggle between the two editor modes by using this button in RStudio. Now let's see how to create HTML document with Quarto. To create an HTML document in Quarto, what you will do is to set your format as HTML. Then you write your content in Markdown and include your desired code chunks. Then after that, you can see the render button and render it. That will now render your document as HTML document. For example, here is the YAML header. As you can see, here we have title, we have the author as Dr. Bright, and we have the date as March 31st, 2025, and we have the format as HTML. Very simple. The same thing can also be done with PDF. But to render your document as PDF, you need to install the TinyTech. What you will do is to go to your RStudio terminal and type the command Quarto install TinyTech. This will help you to install the TinyTech, which will enable you to render your document as PDF. And then you can set your format as PDF, write all those markdown, and use code chunks. And after that, click the render button, and you will now get your PDF document. The MS Word version is also the same. What we do is to set your format as docs, and then write your content using Markdown, and then click on the render button. That will now give you the MS Word version of your document. Now, another thing that I would like you to look at is the Reproducible. Reproducible is a framework for creating interactive and visual appealing web-based presentations. It allows for smooth transitions, multimedia integration, and various customization options, making it ideal for dynamic presentations. And to create that, it's actually very simple. What you just do is to set your format as Reproducible, and then you will now organize your slide as follows. For example, to create a section header, you use section header. I will show you example of section header when we get to the laboratory section, but don't worry about that. Now, for each slide, what we do is to use second hashtag. For example, here will be slide 1, and your content will be under this, and you will indicate the second slide by using this double hashtag. and put the title here and put your content here. So when you render it, then you now have two slides. The first slide will be that slide 1 and second slide will be slide 2. But remember, we use this section header. Section header is just like a section header of your slide. But don't worry, I will show you how it looks like when we get to the laboratory section. Now for PowerPoint, PowerPoint also works with Reproducible. Remember that Reproducible is a web-based one which is in HTML version. But with PowerPoint, just like your normal PowerPoint presentation, and it's actually very easy to create. What we do is to just set your format as PPTX and then you will now create your content. Remember that to create your first slide, you will use double hashtag, and for the second slide, you will use double hashtag. Then after that, you will now click on render and that will now give you a PowerPoint presentation. It's actually very simple. I will show you how everything works when we get to the laboratory section. Quarto streamline the final steps of your workflows by offering tools to export, publish and share your rendered output. You can use render button in your IDE or Quarto command line interface to export your document to multiple formats in HTML, PDF, PowerPoint, EPUB and many more. You can also publish your render output to the web using platforms like GitHub Pages, Netlify or Posit Connect. Once you publish your work, you can easily send the URL to your friends or embed it in a report and presentations. Quarto also supports interactive HTML widgets and dashboards, making it easy to distribute dynamic analysis and visualization. Now is the time to walk you through everything I have discussed in this slide. In this laboratory session, I will be using the materials in this folder called Intro to Quarto. Please locate this material in your LMS. And in this folder, I have this one called Images. Here are the images that I will be using in this session. Then I also have this Quarto document. Anytime you see .qmd, just know that is a Quarto document. For example, I have Quarto slide, it's in .qmd. Then I also have Intro to Quarto. It's also in .qmd. These are the Quarto documents. Then on this folder called Intro to Quarto, I've created an RStudio project called the same name, Intro to Quarto, and that is in .rproj. So I'm going to open this .rproj so that I can be in the RStudio session. As you can see, I'm now in the RStudio project session. Here I have my RStudio project name, that is Intro to Quarto, and if you click on these files, you will see several files inside this panel. You can see the assignment PDF, you can see assignment.qmd, that is what produces this. Then you can see the images directory. Then I also have this one called Intro to Quarto. Then this is my RStudio project. This is my other Quarto file. And here is the template file. I will show you how to work with all of this. So the first thing I would like you to see is this Intro to Quarto. And here we begin our introduction to Quarto in a practical form. Before I begin, let me show you Quarto features in general. When you want to create a new Quarto document, you will come to this plus here, as you can see. Then you can click Quarto document or Quarto presentation. But if you click on Quarto document, you will easily see this presentation as well, as you can see. But let's go to the document. Here is the document section. As you can see, here is our metadata. Here is where you will put your title. Let me just say introduction to Quarto. Introduction to Quarto, for example. And then here is the author. This is where you put your name. And in this case, that will be, let's say, Ezekiel Ogundepo, for example. Ezekiel Ogundepo. And the type of format you want it to be. This is HTML, PDF, MS Word, and if it is PowerPoint, you come over here, or for Reproducible, you set everything up here. But let's start with HTML first. So here I will choose HTML, and here is my engine. So in this engine, I have two options, Neat R and Jupyter. Because I would like to be using R for this document, then I will click Neat R. And if you are using Python, you can easily come over here and select Jupyter. Okay, and when you select Jupyter, as you can see, it asks you your kernel, and in this case, you can select your kernel. Here, my kernel is Python 3, but I'm not using Python. I will just use Neat R, and then I will click on Create. So if I click on Create, I will get a structure like this. This is just a general Koto template, and now let me show you through that template. When you create that template, as you know, you have already set up your YAML header. Here is your title, your author, your format, and in fact you can also come over here and type date. So let's say today is let's say May 22nd 2025. That is when I am recording this video. So in this case you have to put it in quotation because it's a character, right? And now you see here is the section. As you can see, this is the first section. This one is showing us Koto, as you can see, and here is all the text, and this is how they are embedding the link with it, and this is telling you how to run a code. As you can see, this one is both facing the text, and here is the code chunk. And to create another code chunk, you just come here, you will come over here, as you can see this place, and here you can select the engine. If it is just R, I will just come here and click R. If it is Python, you come over here and select Python, as you can see Python, and that will give you Python as your code chunk. But for now, let's start with R. So to create another code chunk, just come here, select R. We also have a shortcut, that is Ctrl Alt I, and that will give you that code chunk. And in Mac, you can press Command Option I, that will give you the same code chunk. I also have chunk options. Here I'm saying echo is false. This one is saying that when you render this document, don't show the code, only show the output. We also have other chunk options such as eval. If I come here and I create a new chunk, remember to create a new chunk, you can press Ctrl Alt minus, and in this case, I can create another chunk option. In this case, you put hashtag here and you press a pipe on your keyboard. And in that case, you put a space there, and then you now type those chunk options. In this case, I want to say eval. Here I'm saying eval is false. In this case, I don't want it to evaluate this code chunk. And if I put the code here, let's say I want to say plot. So I want it to plot iris data frame, for example. In this case, when I run it, it will not show the plot, it will not run anything, because I've already said that eval is false. And we also have other chunk options such as include. Remember to put those options, you have to put hashtag and a pipe, and then you start typing those chunk options. In this case, I want to say include. Here I will say include, let's say false. So the option could be true or false. If I say false, what this include is saying is that run the code but don't show anything, just run it. So it will run it but will not include any comment or any kind of evaluation into it, but just know that the code is run. And we always use include is equal to false whenever we are loading a package. For example, let's say I want to say library tidyverse, library janitor. All of this will work, but the user that is reading my document will not know the kind of libraries or packages that I am importing. So that is why you need to be careful when you are using this option. Include is false. Now let us render this. To render this, you will click on render, and in this case it will ask you the name of that document. Let's call it first test, for example, first test. You don't need to include the extension on it. RStudio will put the extension when you click on save. So if I click on save now, as you can see, I have this Koto document and it is running. As you can see, it's running because I've already clicked on rendered. So if I expand this now, you will see that I have my Koto document in HTML. This one is viewing it for me in HTML. And in fact, you can click on this one and that will show you on a browser. So let me show you how it is shown on my browser. So here now, as you can see, it is now showing on my browser. Here is the title, here is the author, here is the published date. And you can see the content I have. Remember that I said that plot iris, in that I said eval is false. That is why you see that you don't see any output, because the evaluation option will not evaluate that code chunk. And then where I put include, as you can see, you don't see any tidyverse, janitor, you don't see any of those packages here. because include has hidden it. Let me also take you through what I call editor mode. Remember, here is the source editor mode. That is why I am including the markdown for everything. But if I click on visual, here is very good for the beginners. Here you can easily work as if you are working with MS Word. In this case, let me click on this place to hide it. You can easily expand it here. It is called outline. So it's called outline pane. So you can click on it to open. So here is showing us that we have two sections. Here is for Quarto, here is for running echo. And if you click on it, it is interactive, as you can see. Now let me hide the outline pane. Now you can see that this is my document. And to also add other documents, I can just say, for example, let me now say I'm beginning to learn Quarto. So if I want to boldface this place now, Quarto, here I will just highlight this place and I will click on bold. As you can see, that automatically bolded the text for me. And when I click on source back, you will see that it has given it a markdown style. Now let me click on visual again so that I can show you what it can do. Now let me say that I want to create a order list, for example, order list. In this case, I want to let me have the text. Here is the first, here is second, here is third, for example, third. And to create order list, I will just highlight it and click on this place here. As you can see, it has given it an order list. And if you click on source, you will see the markdown for it. Now let me go back to visual again. Let's say that I want to create a sub list for this now. So if I come over here and press enter, let's say I can just say first one, for example. Let's say first, second, for example. And I want to make this one a sub list of this. So what I will do is to come here and press tab. As you can see, come over here too and press tab. Now it has created a sub list for this, and that is how to do that using visual. And if you click on source, you will see the markdown style for that. Now let me go to visual again. You can also embed an image directly by using visual. Remember, you know how to embed an image using a markdown. But if you don't want to use markdown and you want to make everything faster, you can easily come over here. As you can see, it's asking us for the file or the URL. In this case, I want to browse. Then let me go to my images folder and select elephant. For example, elephant is my file. If I want to put a caption there, I can come over here and say I love an elephant, for example. I love an elephant. In fact, you can also embed a link on this file. In this case, let me just say go to GitHub, for example, github.com/gbjournalist. And if I click OK, when I'm done with everything, if I want to put an alternative text, I just come over here and say this is an image of an elephant, for example, elephant. Then I press OK. Now you can see this is it. And if you click on visual, you will see that it has generated the code for us in markdown. Very good. Now other thing you can do with visual is, let's go to the visual. Let's move down. You can also create a table. For example, you can insert a table. In this case, you just come over here and say insert. Here is a table, and it's asking you how many rows, how many columns. Let's say I just want 2 by 2 table, for example, and I want the caption to be list of states in Nigeria, for example. So I just say, it's asking me include table header, yes. Then I will just say okay. Now this is my table, as you can see. Then I can just say let's say state and capital, for example. Capital. In this case, the state, let's say the state is Lagos, and the capital is Ikeja, for example. And then for this one, let's say Oyo, and then here is Ibadan, as you can see. Now if I click on source, you will see that markdown. Here is the markdown file, as you can see. Now let me render it again and let's see what the output will be. As you can see, here is the viewer showing us the output. Here we have our document, as you can see, and here this is the image of an elephant. If you click on it, it is, as you can see, because I don't have internet on my computer, that is why it's saying that not found. So let's click on OK. Let's render it again. And in fact, we have this one called render on save. So what this one means is that when you press Ctrl S, so automatically it will render it for you without clicking on render. So when your document is not large, then you can say render on save. You can click on render on save. But if it is large, don't click on it because it's somehow costly in terms of computation. But when you are ready to render your document, you can easily come over here and click render. Now if I scroll down, you can see my table. You can see the caption of the table, as you can see. And in fact, with this table, you can also reference this table in another text. For example, to create a cross-reference for this table, what you will do is to come on the source, because there's no option for that on Visual. So what I mean by cross-reference is you come to the source, and then after this caption, then you press this curly bracket and you put an hashtag there, and you give your table an ID. In this case, for table, you will start with TBL. In this case, I just say TBL and I press an hyphen and I put an ID for it. In this case, let's call it table 1, or let's just call it state, for example, state. So this is the tag I'm going to reference when I want to cross-reference this table. Now to reference this table, what I will do is that I will come over here and press at, for example, and then type this reference tag. In this case, I'll just say TBL and then hyphen and put state here. Okay, so this one will now show me the table, something like that. Then let me just continue with my sentence. The table above is showing the best two states in Nigeria. I'm sorry if you are not from Lagos and Oyo. I'm just showing this one as an example. Then I press a period. So if I render it now, let's see how it will come. As you can see, it's rendering in HTML, and the HTML is showing on this viewer pane. Now, if you can see, it has automatically given us a number for our table. You can see here is table 1, and this is how I reference it. As you can see, when I hover on it, it's showing me that this is table 1, and it is clickable. When you click on it, it will take you back to that table. And that's how to reference a table in Quarto. And to also cross-reference a figure, the same thing. So what you will do for that figure is come over here. As you can see, we have already generated this markdown with the help of the visual option. Then you now come over here under this place here, under this curly bracket. Then you just press the space here. Then after you press the space, then you come over here and put your tag on it. In this case, for figure, it will start with fig, and then you put the ID for that figure. Let's say fig 1, for example, or let's say elephant. Here I want to call it elephant, right? Now after you have created this tag, then you can now reference it anywhere. In this case, I can come down here and say, then I reference the tag. In this case, I just say fig, then hyphen the name of my tag. Here is elephant. Then I type it there, elephant, right? Then I continue with my sentence. The figure is showing an example of an animal, for example, right? So now if I render it now and see what will happen, so automatically it's going to render and then give us a figure number and with the caption, and you can see how I reference it. Now you can see here is the figure 1, I love an elephant, and here is how I reference it. So it's very simple. I hope you now know how to work with Quarto because it's very simple. Now let's see other thing that you can do. Now you can also add many things on this YAML header. In this case, you can come over to the settings, because anytime I run my code, let me show you what I'm talking about. Anytime I run my code, and you can easily run the code chunk by pressing Ctrl Enter on your keyboard. As you can see, 2 times 2 is 4. That is why I have this output here. And in fact, if you don't want to use the keyboard shortcut, you can easily come over here and click run. As you can see, run current chunk. Now to give you the same result. If I don't want this result to be showing on my code chunk, for example like this, and I want to be on the console, then I will come to the settings and then come over here saying that chunk option in console. Then it's asking me if I want to clear all the existing chunk output from my notebook. In this case, I want to remove the output so that I don't have the output there. So anytime I now run this code, for example, plot iris, you can see it will run it for me automatically. Here is the plot of iris using multi-pane, as you can see, because I'm plotting the whole data set. And that is how to work with these settings. Now, if you go back to the YAML header, you can see that it has automatically added this one for us called editor options, code chunk type is console, as you can see. Now that you have known how to render an HTML document, let's see how to convert this one to MS Word document. So what you just do, you just to come over here, remove the HTML and type docx. Then if you run this one now, you will see that MS Word will be generated for you. So it's running. As you can see, it's opening an MS Word version, and then I have the same thing. So very simple, as you can see, very simple. Here is the figure, as you can see, here is the table, and that is how I have it now based on my document. And to work with PDF, what you will do is to come to the terminal. If you have not done before, come over here and say Quarto install TinyTech. For example, Quarto install TinyTech. When you press enter, it will automatically install TinyTech for you, which will help you to render this document in PDF. And to confirm if the TinyTech is installed, so you can just say Quarto check, for example, Quarto check. So it will automatically check everything to see that everything is working fine. Now you can see it's telling me that Chromium is not installed. I don't need Chromium, but everything I need has been installed for me. So it's still running. It's running the Jupyter engine, which will enables you to be able to work with Python. As you can see, everything is okay. As you can see, here I have all of these. I have LaTeX installed. As you can see, it's using TinyTech, which I have installed with Quarto install TinyTech. Then I have Python 3 installation. Everything is working, so I can work with Python here. Now I have everything. So what I can do now is to come over here and change this one to PDF. Then I can click on render. So automatically it will render it for me, as you can see. So it's working. Then the PDF will come up now. Now you can see it has generated the PDF file, as you can see, which is showing the same thing that I have in MS Word, as you can see. So that is good. Then now let me now take you through the main document that I want you to learn in this video, and that is Intro to Quarto. Right, I can close this one. Now let's see everything that I have in this document. Remember, it's in HTML format, and if I want, I can change to PDF or MS Word. Now remember, you can create a section by using double hashtag. Here is giving us section, and the section can come over here. You can see here is Quarto, and in fact, if you just have one hashtag, that will give you first header. In this case, the first header is the same thing as title. That is why I don't want this, so I can remove it. But if I have it, this is how it will show up. Beginners, for example, introduction to Quarto. And see. Then if you come to the outline, you see that this one is in the first header, while this one is in the second header, and so on and so forth. And that is how to use header to section your document. So, but I don't want this. Let me just remove it. Okay. Now you know how to create a section, and you know how to embed a link on your text. That's what I have here. And then to run a code, you know how to do that. You know how to create a code chunk already. Another thing I want you to learn is how to use inline code. For example, it's not every time you'll be creating a code chunk. before you can work with a code. You can actually use inline code. In this case, what you will do is that you will come over here, something like this. You just press this back tick and you put out there, and the code that you want it to run is here, so that it can come in inline text. For example, if I run this one now, it will show me that there are 150 observations in the ID data. Let me just run so that you can see. Let me run it. Okay, it's running. It's running. Now you can see that it has run. And then if I scroll now, you will see that I have that inline code. You can see now there are 150 observations in Irish dataset. And that one automatically calculated it based on the code that I have given it here. Right? And that is how to work with inline code. And if it is Python, you just change this out to Python. Just say Python, and that will automatically do that for me. Now, to create a list, of course, you know how to create both ordered and unordered list. So I don't want to waste my time on this. So let me just scroll down. Another one that I've not shown you before is this one. And we are creating a task list with subtasks. So remember, this is a checklist. So if you do something like this and you run it, what this one will do for you is to give you a checklist, as you can see here, and it is interactive because our document is in HTML. So you can come here, come here, come here, click here, click here, click here, click here, and this is the code that generated that for us. Just like normal list and sublist, here we created a list, and to create a checklist, you just come here, press square bracket and put X on it, and that will make it a checklist. Already you know how to create a table with visual. So if you don't know how to create R Markdown table, you can easily do that with visual, or use ChatGPT to generate Markdown table. And once you have done that, right, you can easily cross-reference them with the help of hashtag that I showed you before. Of course, embedding and referencing figure is actually very simple. I've shown you before. So just embed your figure. If you want to put a link on it, you know how to do that. And if you want to reference it, it's very simple. You just use the hashtag, to do that. This is it. Here, I'm trying to change the width so that it can be 300 pixels. For example, here is making the width to be higher. And you can also specify both the width and the height by just saying comma height, specify the height, and that will do the work. And to link the figure is very simple. You remember to embed the figure. What we do is to come over here. Here is the caption. If you don't want the caption, you can remove the caption, but this should not be empty. So after you have done that, this should not create the figure. It will embed the figure. Now for the link, so you just come over here, another one. Remember to embed a link. A link is like this, and then you now put the path to that link. For example, let's say https, for example, google.com. Here is the way we used to embed a link on a text, and that is what this one is doing for us. As you can see here, it encloses the square bracket, and then this one here, the path, is what we have here, and that is why we have this image clickable, because we have embedded a link on it. Okay, we can also align the figure maybe to the left, to the right, or to the center, and this is how we do it. On this curly bracket, you just use this syntax fig-align. Please, when you are doing this, don't put a space there, because if you put a space there, it will not work. That is why it will be without any space, and then you now put the alignment left, right, center. That will be here. And if you also want to include other options, you just press space and you type that option, and that will do the work for you. Remember, for the alternate text, it's the same thing. Fig-alt, you put the quotation here, and that will do the alt text for you. And just as I said before, you can also add many parameters. Here I have the fig alt, I also have the fig align, and then I want the width to be 50%, because I don't want the width to be maybe I don't want to be specifying whether the width to be 100 pixel or what. I just put the width here. Width is equal to 50%. So automatically it will resize the width to 50%. And when we run it, as you can see, that is what we have under this place here. You can see I'm trying to resizing the figures. This one is this. As you can see here, I resize the figure to this, and then this one is I resize it to 80%. That is why it is smaller than this one. And then I also link a link to this figure so that when you click on it, it will take you to the website. And this is where I cross-reference it. And for cross-reference, it's very simple. You just put the hashtag there and the name of the ID. You put it there. And remember, to cross-reference a figure, you have to start with fig and then hyphen, then the ID for that tag. For example, here is elephant. So then to reference it, I just come over here and I put it as at fig elephant. Remember, here is how to create a quote. Here I'm creating a quote, and when you look at it on the output, as you can see here, for example, as you can see, it creates a quote and it has everything. And if I just come over here and I click show in new window, so it will go to the browser and show everything for me. Now you can see here it is. Let me go there. Here is the quote, and that is it. And what we can also do now is to create a table of content. And to create a table of content is very simple because we are working with the HTML. What we do is press enter here and then indent this HTML. Because this HTML is part of the format, you can press space 2 times. 1, 2, as you can see. Then you now come over here and press a colon and press enter. Then you now say TOC and then you now say true. So let's see if it works. No, this one will not be under this place. As you can see, it must be with 2 characters. As you can see here, it's starting with the 3rd character. This one too is starting with the 3rd character. So when I run it now, automatically I will have a table of content now. So it's loading. Now I have a table of content, but it may not show clearly on this viewer pane. Let me just come here so that we can see it clearly. Now if you look at it now, I now have a table of content. You can see here is my Quarto, here is the section running code, here is inline code, here is creating and referencing table, which I have talked about, and then here is creating caption and cross references our table. So this is that. And here is a section under this embedding and referencing figure, which we have talked about. Now let's see how to create a subfigure. In this case, let me go to my code. Let me click on the outline and let me click on subfigures. So in this case, this is how to create subfigures. Subfigure is all about grouping multiple images into a composite figure. In this case, we are going to use this div. Let me show you. Here, this is how to create a div. You press 3 colons together, and then here you put a curly bracket, and then here is the figure ID, and that's the general figure, the main figure. And then here we specify layout -ncol. Here we are creating just 2 columns. In this case, here is the image or the path to the first figure, and here I'm creating a tag for it so that if I want to reference it, I can reference it with this one. And to reference the entire figure, then I will use this one to reference it. Then the second figure is this. Remember, here is the path to the figure, and here is the tag for this figure. Now, here is the main figure caption, and then here is how I close my div. Remember, every figure has their own caption. For example, here is for Surus, and here is for the anus. And for the entire caption, I have it here. So if I run it now, let's see how it works on our output. Then I have the following as the output. For example, here is the caption for this figure, here is caption for this figure, and here is the caption for the entire figure. And I can easily reference them if I want to reference them, and you know that already. Another thing is that you can also use computation to generate our figures, and it's very simple. You can use the code chunk in Python or R or Julia to compute your figures. In this case, we'll be using some options in our code chunks. Here we have label, fig cap, fig length. We also have fig align, fig alt, fig width, and fig height for our layout. So let me show you what they do. Before I move that, please note that every code chunk always have their own label. For example, I can come over here and create a chunk, and then if I want to make this chunk to have its own label, I can just start with a hashtag, a pipe, and I just say label. In this case, I just call it some chunk. For example, I just call it some chunk, some chunk. So now if you come over here, look at this place here. This is where all our chunks sections are being named. So if you click on this place now, you can see that here the chunk under this has a name, some chunk. And when you are running it, so the chunk names will be showing. And if your chunk does not have any name, no problem, it will only show you on title. So I can come here and start typing my code. So here I can just say, let's say age is 14, and then I can just say age minus 8. If I run it, here it is. And remember that I've already said that my code chunk to be under the console. But when I created, I think I removed this, so I can easily come over here and tell it that it will run my chunk on the console. And then they let me remove the output. Let me go back to that place again, run it. You can see that there is no problem. So it has run and it's running on the console. So now, to now start creating images using computation with R chunks, here is a label for our chunk. And to now identify each figure by their own label, remember we are going to say fig hyphen and put the tag on it. And this is where we are doing that. Because I would like to reference the image produced by this chunk code, that is why I call the label as fig is. Remember in the previous images that we have embedded, to reference those images, we always call them with their tag name. And here is my tag name. So for figure, it starts with figure and then hyphen and the ID for that figure. And if it is table, it will be TBL hyphen and the reference for that table. So that's what will be here. So now because I'm creating a figure with this chunk code, then it will be fig is. It could be any name of your choice. So now, because I don't want to start saying main that will give me a title for my image, no, I want everything to be done with the code chunk. Here I call it fig cap, and this is the caption for my figure. And because I also want to create a figure art, so here I call it history of 100 random number. And then because I want my image to be of size 6 and the height to be of size 4, then I have this. So after everything, then my main code is now this one. It's creating histogram for 100 observations that follows normal distribution. And then if you look at it now, here is the result. So if I scroll down, let me scroll down, you can see here is the result. Now you can see that it's giving it a caption. Remember that this caption is taken from this place here, fig caption. And if I want to reference it, I can reference it by using fig is. And that is how to generate a figure using code chunk. You can also create a sub images using computational method. In this case, it's very simple. What we do, remember, is the main thing is label, and here we are saying fig chart. That is the label for our figure, and here is the caption. The first one is the main caption for the figure. In this case, I call it comparison charts. And then for the sub figures, right, here is having fig sub, and then under it I have cars. That is the first caption for the first figure, and I have pressure. That is the second caption for the second figure. Then I'm specifying that the layout is so that it can give me two figures. And then when I run it, it gives me something like this. As you can see, here is what it gave me, because I have plot cars, I have plot pressure, I can see everything. What I can also do, if you remember, is that I can come here and say that echo is false, so that not show me the code, but you only give me the output. So when I click on render, as you can see, it's going, it's running. Now it has run. Now if I scroll down, you will see the result now. As you can see, there is no code again. It only gives me the result. That is figure 1 cast, figure 2 pressure, and here is the main figure caption. Remember, you can also create an equation using a Quarto, and it's very simple. You can use both inline math or display math. For the inline math, you can start with this dollar sign. It will be under the same text. But for the display, it will generate an equation on a separate line, and you know how to do that before. Here is showing you a standalone equation. And another thing is that you can also reference an equation. It's very simple. So what we do, after you have created the equation, then you create a tag with it. For the equation, the tag will start with EQ. As you can see, EQ. And here is the tag ID for this equation. And to reference it is very simple. Just stay at, then you now reference this EQ hyphen sample, and that will give you everything. So if I run it, so it will just come over like this and give you the equation like this, and then here is the referencing. Another beautiful thing about Quarto is that you can create a callout, and it's very simple. Callout always draw attention to note. You can also use callout diffs in Quarto, and what callout does is that it will highlight the important content for your audience. For example, to create a callout, you just use this div, and inside it you now say callout note, and then you now put the note there. So when you run it, you can see something like a banner will just come up. This is it, as you can see, and here is the note. And if you don't want to say note and you want to say another thing, so what you can do is to come here, press enter. You can press hashtag 2 times or 3 times. So this note, you can rename it as, let's say, for you, for example, for you. So if I run it, see what will happen. It's going to rename the note, although the call out is note, but it will give you something like that. As you can see, it has named that to for you, and this is the same thing as call out note. We also have several call outs, such as tip. For example, if you just say tip, so it will give you something like this design. And you can say warning when you want to inform the potential reader about pitfalls or things to avoid. That is what this warning, we inform them about. And for the important, this is the call out important. It's very simple. Call out important, just change the note or tip to warning, and that will give you something like this. Now let me show you how to create a Quarto slide. To create a Quarto slide, you come over here and then click on Quarto documents. Inside it, click on presentation and select PowerPoint, and then you click create. So automatically it will give you a template for creating PowerPoint. Here you can just rename it. Let's say come and learn Quarto, for example. And remember, you can also add author to it, author, and then it could be your name, Shola James. And then for PowerPoint, it's like this. Then when you run it, so first of all, it will ask you to save it. In this case, I can save it as, let's say, slide Quarto, for example. When you press enter and then you click, automatically it's even doing it for us. But if it is not doing it, you just click render, and automatically it will give you a PowerPoint, something like this. And you can see, and then this is the something like that. But what I want to show you is this. If you have a template, maybe your company is using template, you can insert that template into your Quarto. Then that will now bring me to this one. I will click on it. And to do that, what we just do is you use this format. For example, you can just say, yes, where you will reference the document, that's the template that you want to adapt with. So let me just open that one for you, for the one of DSN. Let me show you how it is. Here is the template. So let me open it. As you can see, here is what DSN gave me as the template for their slides. As you can see, here is the template. Now, because I now use this template for my own slide, so you now see what this Koto slide will look as when I render it. Remember, I use reference doc, then I reference DSN template. So if I click on render, so it's loading. Now it has generated. So if I open it now, you will see that I now have everything just like DSN template. You can see this is my content. You can see table of content, everything, all of this, as you can see. Now if you want to edit, because it is not easy to automate everything, you can easily edit them on this file. So maybe I just want to position this. Maybe this one here, as you can see, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. Let's say, yeah, this is everything is fine. As you can see, everything is fine. Now I explain what section header is. You can see for every section, I have a section header, and this is what my section header is. As you can see, for this section, I have these slides and this, as you can see. And for this one, I have this, I have this, I have this, I have this, I have this. Another thing I want to show you is you can also use presenter note on this file. So to generate a presenter note for every slide, what you will do is that you come over here and use the div notes. So in this case, just put your note here and type your presenter note here. Now when you now run it, your presenter note will now show up on the slide. Let me show you where it shows up. I think it's under this learning objective, for example. Now here is the presenter note, as you can see. If I split my screen and I come to the R Studio, for example, you can see that I have my note. Here's my note, and it's showing the same thing. Before we begin this session, let me quickly show you what you are about to learn. And that's how to create a presenter note on your Quarto document using slide. Now, it is now time for your assignment. So let me show you your assignment file. So I actually generate your assignment file using Quarto. As you can see, here is everything, and I created a footnote so that it can have something that I want it to have. So, but let me show you the file. And here is the file. So when you open this into the Quarto that I've downloaded on the LMS, then you can see the assignment file in PDF. So as you can see, so what I would like you to do is to read through this assignment and create a Quarto document for this assignment. As you can see, your deliverable will be this. Yeah, you provide your code in Quarto, you write a report in Quarto, you do everything in Quarto. Your format could be PDF, it could be HTML, and it could be MS Word. That is how we have come to the end of this video. See you in the next video. Bye.